I don't know about you,
but I'm feeling 22.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry for the cringe. We had to throw in a New Year joke, okay? Honestly, though, it could have been worse.
It could have been worse. It could have been one of those, like, I'll see you next year, or like, I haven't seen you since next year, dad jokes. I haven't seen you since next year. Next year, dad jokes.
So you're welcome for not using that one, okay? But if you haven't guessed it, we're kind of going to be talking about like New Year type stuff in this video, but I promise you it's not about resolutions, okay? Because if you're anything like us, it's the end of January. I've kind of already slid off on my New Year's resolutions. They usually don't last very long. So instead of that, we're going to give a little different twist for things.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about healthy habits that you can implement in all of your relationships this year. And like not just specifically like significant other relationships.
Right.
Relationships with your family members, like the whole shebang.
Other relationships, I don't know, okay? But
with every one of these habits, we're going to be sharing a story, so it's kind of going to be interesting.
Yes.
And you're going to want to subscribe and not miss any of our other stories because they're good.
They're really good stories.
They are good, though.
If you saw like our ghosting video, we had some good personal stories. Some of these might top that though, so.
Oh, it's true. So stick around and subscribe.
Healthy habit number 1.
Speak up when you're uncomfortable. Take it away, Kayla.
All right, so this one is pretty self-explanatory, okay? But it's a lot easier said than done, and I got a great story to come along with it. So I'm gonna take you guys back to a first date experience.
Oh.
Okay, so we're going back in time to freshman year of college, Kayla. Okay, she was out there living her best life, you know, going on some dates, whatever. So I go on a first date with this one guy.
Okay.
We just go get Mexican food, classic, you know,
fun.
really casual. And on the drive back, he wanted to hold my hand. Okay, and like he didn't like ask me or anything, which is like whatever, not a big deal. But I genuinely just did not want to hold his hand because like I didn't really like him at this point. And it just, like, I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. Like, there's been some...
it was the first date.
Right.
Like, you might not feel comfortable with that person yet.
And there have been some first dates where I did feel like that was okay. Like, I felt comfortable because we had the connection. I already knew them, whatever. But for whatever reason, I just was not feeling the vibes. Okay? But instead of actually just being like, hey, like, I don't really feel like holding hands right now. Like, it could have just been that, and that's it.
A quick communication of how you're feeling.
But instead, I just kind of sat there awkwardly holding his hand, even though I really didn't want to.
And I'm sure, like, it wasn't even that good because he could probably sense, like, the awkwardness.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And, like, it wasn't one of those situations where, like, I felt, like, disrespected or anything like nothing like that at all. Like, some of these things that we're talking about, speaking up when you're uncomfortable, it might be a pretty minor situation. Obviously, there can be some more like serious or like complicated situations where you super need to speak up for yourself. But I'm talking about even like the little things. Like, I don't really feel like holding hands. I don't really feel comfortable when you touch me in a certain way, whatever.
Right.
It's important to speak up about those things. And if someone respects you, then they're not going to think it's a big deal.
Yes, honestly. And I mean, a lot of people go into these sort of like situations and dating and all that stuff with like expectations. But just because someone might have this expectation of you or the night or how things are going to play out doesn't mean you have to follow that.
Right. Like, sometimes you just feel like, well, we should have done this by now. Or this person took me on a date, so I should have done this. Like, no. Yeah. That doesn't exist. There's no, like, this is what you're supposed to do on date number 2. And this is what you're supposed to do once you're actually officially in a relationship. No, doesn't exist.
And this is what you're supposed to do when you're best friends. Like, that sort of thing. No.
Doesn't exist, okay? So it is okay if you feel uncomfortable with a certain situation. We all gotta learn how to speak up about those things.
And healthy habit number 2.
Stick with your boundaries.
And this is where I come in. So this is a story about boundaries and when I didn't stick to them and what happened. So what had happened was... Mom, if you're watching this, no, you're not. No, you're not. So my parents had gone out of town. And this was when I was still living with my parents. They went out of town and they told me that I could have a friend spend the night. So I was like, great, cool. They said, okay, but don't leave the house after dark.
Okay.
And we were like, yeah, great. But we decided we wanted to. And we didn't think there was going to be any issue with it because we're invincible.
Right.
Obviously.
As all teenagers, young adults are.
Yes. So we think we're invincible. We decided it would be funny to go like TP somebody's house.
Classic.
And it was one of our friends. Like it wasn't revenge or anything. It was just we thought it would be fun. So we hop in her car. This car is an old rickety car. Like
Classic.
We don't trust this car. So my parents were right when they said don't leave the house after dark. We drive to this friend's house. We TP the house. We get in the car. It's about 2 a.m.
You're vibing.
We're two
chilling,
girls.
doing
We're
your
driving.
thing.
We're driving home. The car literally stops.
Of course it does.
Stops
Of course
working.
it does.
We're at the stoplight. It turns off. And we're like, oh, what? We start freaking out because it's literally like 2 a.m. We're like, we're not even supposed to be out right now. Like, we're going to be in so much trouble.
Situation is just stressing me out.
It's stressing me out just reliving it.
Right.
And so somehow we like get the car to start working again. We're driving. We're making like a turn. We're like a mile from my house. Making a turn. The car's like, boop, 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 boop. Stops again.
That's so bad.
And I feel like at one point, like, my friend was like out pushing the car, but maybe I'm just making that up.
That would be kind of crazy if that did happen.
The moral of the story is we made it home, but we did not follow the boundary that was set, and we should have because bad things happened when we didn't follow that boundary that had been set.
And I like that story too because like it's an example of like boundaries with like friends and honestly family members. And
Yes.
like obviously it's a little bit different,
Right.
Because like that was actually a boundary that your parents put in place for you. But like that's just an example of what can happen when you cross boundaries, like whether they're boundaries you set or like that someone else set. Like the reality is boundaries are set in place to make sure you feel safe and comfortable.
Exactly.
And
To keep you out of trouble.
exactly. Moving right along to healthy habit numero 3.
Don't settle for temporary attention.
All right, you guys. So this one hits close to home, okay? I got a story for this one. I feel like this is one of the most relatable habits that we're going to talk about.
For sure. It's one of those that, like, I feel like we've all been there. We've all done that.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about your recent experience.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say, like, when it comes to like relationship advice and knowing what is healthy, like you can know all these things in your head, what
Yes.
healthy relationships look like,
Mm-hmm.
what the red flags are, all that stuff. But it's not always necessarily easy to see them in real life situations. And it can just be really hard to like stick to those things, especially if you are like lonely or really like wanting a relationship. So all that being said, even me as like someone who is kind of a relationship coach, like teaches about these things, I'm not perfect. I still struggle with these things sometimes too. But because I do know the information, I can like get out of these situations a little bit quicker, I guess, sometimes. I don't know. All that to say, okay, here's my story.
Here's your story.
And there's not that much to it. Basically, recently, I guess, been feeling a little down, feeling a little lonely. You know the vibes. And
Yeah.
a friend of mine told me he has feelings for me, right? Felt really great. Everyone loves like the attention and the affection. Like it's not wrong
And like
to like those things and
and
enjoy
knowing
that.
that someone likes you,
Yeah,
like feels that way towards you, feels nice.
it does.
That sort of attention feels nice and it's different. And when
Mhm.
you're lonely, it feels real nice.
Exactly. Thank you, Tabby, for affirming me.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so like long story short, like I was talking to this dude for a little while, longer than I should have, like knowing that like we actually didn't have that much in common, like I didn't actually see something long term with him for a number of reasons that I'm not gonna go into right now, but I just knew like it wasn't gonna lead to a committed relationship basically. And it took me several months to finally accept that because I did like enjoy talking to him and I liked all the compliments he gave me. And of course we connected on some things, but like they were mostly superficial things, but it was still just fun to talk to someone like on the daily and have someone tell me how cute I am.
Yes, honestly.
But
But like in the end, Do you feel like it was worth it?
Absolutely not, because I finally ended things in a mature way. You guys, I really just wanted to ghost the guy.
She did.
But I had to take my own advice and be like, no, I'm going to be mature about this.
I was very proud of you for that.
I was proud of myself. So if you haven't seen our ghosting video, go back and you will use that advice at some point, because I had to. Mm-hmm. Okay? Anyway, so basically I just told him, I really enjoyed getting to know you, blah, blah, blah. But I think we both know this isn't going anywhere long term. So peace out. It's time to peace. Anyway, so I was really sad about it for a little while, but I got over it kind of quickly, because I think I realized it really was more about the attention than actually wanting to be with this person.
Yes.
So, but it just made me feel more lonely when it was over.
Right.
Because, it was, just feeling this temporary, void for attention, whatever. And so when it was over, it made me feel even more lonely than I was before it all started.
Because you were literally just settling.
Yeah, exactly.
For something temporary.
Yeah. And so just don't settle for temporary attention. Yes, it feels good in the moment, but long term, it can cause a lot more heartache. If you end up doing things that you regret, then that can take time to work through those things too. So just know your worth and know what you actually want in a relationship, because if you don't even know what you want, then that means you have no vision for who you should be dating.
That's good.
Thank you.
That
wasn't even
good
planned.
right there.
Thank you.
That was really good.
So you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's all I have to say about this situation.
It was good.
Okay. And now we interrupt this educational film with an intermission.
We'd like to direct your attention to the comments section, specifically the pinned one. And we'd like to know, Hawaii or Alaska?
This intermission was brought to you by a Kaylah and Tabbi brainstorming session over coffee.
You have exactly 10 seconds to complete your mission.
And now back to your regularly scheduled viewing.
Healthy habit number 4.
Don't compromise on your standards or boundaries just because you're feeling lonely. Okay, now some of you may be thinking this sounds a lot like number 3, and you're not wrong. They are very similar, but this one is a little bit more specific, and Tabbi has a really great example to go along with it. So, here we go.
So, one of my boundaries or standards, whatever you want to call it, is that I won't talk to someone that I'm interested in or kind of have feelings for or whatever after a certain time at night. And
makes sense.
It does, because I found that when it's late at night, you start feeling lonely. You start kind of getting in your feels.
Sad boy hours at its finest.
And you're around and you're just I want to talk to someone because you're lonely. And usually you end up kind of oversharing with that person, being a little too vulnerable. And it's you're not even in a relationship with them, but you're sharing all this personal stuff because it's late at night. Because you're lonely. And so basically the gist of it is you wake up the next day and you're that was a lot of oversharing and that was very embarrassing.
For our 5th and final healthy relationship habit,
talk to a trusted friend when you feel hurt, lonely, or confused about your relationship.
Or your situationship. Okay? So, I really like this last one because honestly, it relates a lot to me and Tabby's friendship. So, I want you guys to think back to a few minutes ago when I was giving you guys some details about my past situationship and how I was very conflicted about the way I was feeling and what I knew I really deep down wanted in a relationship, but I was kind of settling in that situation, whatever. I was super just conflicted, and it wasn't really until I started talking it out that I was able to actually figure out really what was going on and why I was feeling a certain way.
Right, until you talked about it out loud, you weren't able to have like that clarity.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, like we all process things differently, and so for me personally, it's good to talk things out. Mm-hmm. But whether you're like that or not, the reality is when you talk to someone else, they can give you a perspective that you just don't have. Like you're caught up in your feelings, you're kind of confused, you don't have like a full picture about what is going on. You might not be able to see any red flags or whatever because you're like just so caught up in the moment. A friend can bring some clarity into that situation just because they have an outsider perspective.
Right. They can kind of help unjumble all those emotions and all of those thoughts. And also they can affirm you that like these feelings you're feeling are valid, and a good friend is not going to judge you for how you're feeling or how you're opening up about anything like that.
Exactly. And I super appreciated that about Tabby, like with us talking about those things, because like obviously she could relate to some things, but like she was really good about saying like, no, I get that. Like I understand why like you're talking to him and what's attractive about that. But I also want to just like remind you like you deserve this, this, and this. And like, I know this is actually what you want. So like affirming your feelings, but also encouraging you and bringing clarity to the situation.
And some of you guys might be thinking like, okay, well, I don't have that person, or I don't have like that friend in my life that like I can open up to about things or like be vulnerable with. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it takes you being the first person to open up about something for them to then feel comfortable doing the same.
That is so true. Because I've definitely been in times in my life where I really didn't have like that really good close friend that I felt comfortable with talking about those kind of things. But really all it would take is one person to open up, because like then it's just like shows the other person like I don't have everything together. Like I got stuff going on and like I don't have all the answers. And that like, just makes the other person feel more comfortable. Like, okay, yeah, same though.
And it shows them like, hey, I trust you enough to open up about these feelings. So you can trust me too.
Exactly. So
those are our 5 healthy habits that we would like you guys to bring into the new year.
And let's be real for a second, you guys. Like, we genuinely, obviously, want to like entertain you guys a little bit.
Right.
But the main goal here is we want to play a part in creating a culture of healthy, safe, strong relationships. And so that's what we want for you guys. That's what we want for ourselves. So honestly, if you want that for yourself, then go ahead and subscribe, because we're going to be coming at you with some more content. Hopefully we'll make you laugh. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you will be entertained by our cringy stories. But we also hope that you learn a little bit about relationships and honestly just how to have like some self-esteem and confidence to bring into those relationships too.
Yep. So you can find all of this content we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook.
So if you're really wanting to be blessed, like Tabby's super girl boss vibes mug here, then go give us a follow.
Don't be a ghost. Like the post.
Amazing.
That was cute.
Good. I was going to say leave some comments, but I don't think we need to. I think that was it.
The ending was terrific.